Hello everyone, Jim Myers from We Like Drinking, and I'm here today with Chris Wright from Pikes Peak Brewing Company.
Hi, how are you? Hi everybody.
Thanks for speaking with us today, Chris.
Thanks for coming by.
Well, Chris here is the founder of Pikes Peak Brewing Company in Monument, Colorado. Would you like to tell people about the address?
Yeah, it's in beautiful, historic Monument, Colorado, 1756 Lake Woodmoor Drive, just off the freeway, exit 161. You can see our big grain silo from the interstate.
Great. Now, Chris, you founded Pikes Peak Brewing Company in 2011. Could you tell us why you picked Monument as a location, and how did you come about the name for Pikes Peak Brewing Company?
Yeah, absolutely. So we chose Monument because I lived here, and one of the reasons that I thought we would do well is the neighborhood that I was living in only allowed split rail fencing. There was no privacy fencing, so that encouraged neighbors to kind of talk to each other. And I was home brewing, and inevitably every weekend either a neighbor would come over or I would share a beer across those fences. So I knew that this area was ripe for something that Monument called their own, and they just were thirsty for that community type of building place. So we were looking around for names and had several other ones kind of picked out. Monument Brewing Company, Elephant Rock Brewing Company, that type of thing. And I was like, well, I want something a little bit bigger in geography. So I just happened to search for Pikes Peak Brewing Company one day, and lo and behold, it was available from the state. There had been a prior Pikes Peak Brewery that closed its doors probably 10 years ago and did not renew that copyright.
So were you surprised to get that name?
I was very surprised. Very surprised. And so was everyone else who walked in. That's their one comment. I can't believe you got the name. No one had that name. But luckily we were able to secure that name. So,
for those of you unfamiliar with this area, Pikes Peak is America's mountain. And if you look to the west in this area, it's prominent. It's the one thing that you'll always see.
It's the second most visited mountain in the entire world.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Behind Everest?
No, behind Mount Fuji.
Oh, wow. What do you know?
So there you
Learn
go.
something, folks. So, yeah, you talked about the community aspect, and you tried to bring that here. How has that worked, that kind of community aspect? It's Monument's brewery.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. The neighborhood here in Monument has really embraced us with open arms. And the reason is I wanted to create that kind of third space for the community to get together over handcrafted beer. And what that means is the first space is the home, the second space is your work, but a good society needs that third space where it's neither one of those environments, but a more casual place to get to know your neighbors and that type of thing. Starbucks has made the third space very popular throughout the world. So I wanted to kind of create that space, kind of blend the look and feel of a coffee house with a boutique winery with a traditional English pub, to just have families hang out over a handcrafted beer and get to know each other. And it's been phenomenal to watch those interpersonal relationships develop. People that never would have met had we not opened Pikes Peak Brewing Company have created just incredible bonds.
Okay, great. So you started out as a home brewer.
I did.
And then you got into the professional aspect of this with Pikes Peak Brewing Company. Would you care to tell people some of the surprises that you've encountered over the years, going from home brewing to commercial brewing?
And I get that question a lot on tours, and people are like, well, was it hard to make that jump from home brewer to professional brewer? And I tell them, actually, it was not as hard as you would think. And the reason is, a home brewer takes a keg or a pot and they make it work to brew beer. They cut things out and weld things together. Inevitably, when you're home brewing, some problem will arise. Something falls off. You have to reach in. If you've home brew, you know what I'm talking about, right? So the good thing about my professional system is it has one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to brew beer. And it does a great job of that. So it was almost easier on brew day because I was more worried about the process and less worried about fixing something that broke along the way.
Did you have any issues gaining consistency in your first few batches, or were you already there?
So the last 5 years before we opened, I took the same 3 recipes and brewed them over and over and over again, really trying to hit that consistency. So really the biggest surprise was the efficiency of the system. So when we opened, our beers were a bit stronger, and they've stayed that strong. I haven't really adjusted much of the recipes because I like the flavor and the complexity that a stronger beer provides. But that was the biggest surprise, is the efficiency went up to 85-87% efficiency on the system.
That's excellent. It's not something you're going to get in a home brew environment generally. So yeah, you talked about your heavier beers, your high gravity beers. You brew a lot of high gravity beers. Elephant Rock, your Summit House Stout being 2 examples of those. Yep. And I've noticed that hasn't really hurt you at all. How has the public reacted to that, and has it been an education process, or did they immediately say these are just tasty, flavorful beers?
I think the majority of the folks have just recognized them as tasty, flavorful beers. There'll be some people who come in and say, gosh, Chris, I wish you would do a lower strength, because I'd like to have more than a couple, and that type of thing, and I get that, and that's why we do produce English mild, which is, it's a little on the heavier side of or stronger side of a session beer, but it's still 5.1%. We actually just canned that beer just here recently. So I have some options. Our Scent Pale Ale is like 5.2%. So we have some, but our biggest sellers is our Elephant Rock and our Gold Rush, which is a Belgian Golden Strong at almost 9% alcohol. So really, I think the most important thing is quality over quantity, and I've found that the drinking public enjoys that complexity that comes with a higher alcohol beer.
Okay, and you mentioned you have Gold Rush, Elephant Rock, you have Devil's Head Red, you have the Summit House, you have Switchback. Where does the inspiration come for all of these names?
So in tying together with the name Pikes Peak, I wanted all of our beer names to represent the local area. So I looked to history books or geographic features or anything to kind of tie those together, because I don't want there to be any doubt when folks are looking at a can on the shelf where that can comes from, and the story on the back of each can is very inspirational and kind of just cool. So Elephant Rock is a geographic rock foundation that's right here in Monument. Gold Rush, of course, is from the gold rush of the early 1900s here in the Pikes Peak region. So everything has a tie-in to that.
Okay, great. And which would you consider, your flagship, your signature beer?
Our best seller is our Elephant Rock IPA, which is right here. Which, interestingly enough, when I first opened, I didn't have an IPA. I looked at the current landscape of Colorado beers, and I was like, everyone's doing a great IPA. I want to kind of try to use a different style to differentiate ourselves. So is the Red and the Gold Rush. Mm-hmm. But very quickly, people came in the door and said, "Where's your IPA?" Gave them that story, and they looked at me like, "I don't care, I want an IPA." So finally, I about 3 or 4 months into our business here, I did produce the Elephant Rock IPA, and it just flew out of the kegs. So I kept it. Okay. So that's probably our biggest selling beer. And then followed closely behind with our Devil's Head Red and our Gold Rush Belgian Golden Strong. Okay.
Great. Now you mentioned the canning, and folks, you can get these cans all along the Front Range.
Yep, absolutely.
So when did you get into canning? When did you start canning? And tell us a little bit about that process, anything unique that you're doing during the canning process.
Sure. So we started canning with the help of mobile canning, which is a neat, interesting business arrangement where they come on canning day, hook up to our bright beer tank, and with their canning line, and basically leave us with several hundred cases of cans, which is a great way to get into canning, but it's fairly expensive per run. So we started that back in June of 2013, and then last August we commissioned our own canning line, also from Wild Goose, and we started canning then. What that allows us to do is get a lot more flexibility by having our own canning line. We can do short runs, it's less dependent on another entity to come in and do that. And I don't know if you can see this with our cans, but you might see this copper color kind of sticking up here, and we're actually we use labels for our cans. So interestingly enough, it's the same price to produce a printed can as it is a blank can. Mm-hmm. So we do this because copper is in our logo colors, and it looks purposeful, and I think it matches our artwork really well. But by stocking one type of can, it allows me to have seasonals or small runs without having to worry about the minimum can order from our can producer.
Okay, great. So you have a little more flexibility built in there.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about your system. Could you tell us about, in 2011, how big was your brewing system, and in the 4 years since, how much has it grown? What's the size now? What are you brewing?
So we've always had a 10-barrel brew house. We have added quite a bunch of fermentation capacity along the way. So we started out with 4 10-barrel fermenters, and that was in 5 10-barrel bright tanks. Then about 14 months after we opened, we doubled in size, adding more tasting room and production capacity as well. And along with that, we added 2 30-barrel fermenters. And then late last year, we added another 10-barrel fermenter. So we've grown that up to quite a bit of fermentation capacity. We are brewing 6 to 7 batches a week right now on average, and it's just growing like crazy.
Okay. So if people come to Pikes Peak Brewing Company, they can get the cans, or they can get them in the retail outlet.
Yep.
They can also sample in your tasting room. Mm-hmm. They can get growlers. Mm-hmm. And what about kegs?
We can absolutely get kegs for folks. We have 2 different sizes, a 5 or 15-gallon keg. And we also have the crowler or peat can, which is a 32-ounce can that we fill on demand. So it's kind of like a growler, but it's in a can, stays fresher longer, a little bit smaller package size than a 64-ounce growler. Okay.
Now you talked about, we're getting back to the community aspect. You talked a little bit about building community here. What's your clientele? Who generally comes in here to visit Pikes Peak Brewing Company?
Well, for the majority, it's people within a 10-mile radius of Pikes Peak Brewing Company in Monument. But we also get the beer tourists and people who have had our beer on tap or out of the liquor stores in Colorado Springs come up for the day on a beautiful day, sit out in our beer garden. But really, we encourage anybody to come by. We love having families. In fact, we have games, board games, and that type of thing for people just to develop that interpersonal relationship between people that you know and then people that you don't know yet either. So that's, in fact, I like to tell a story that for 2014, our anniversary is in June, our official anniversary. We actually invited the Cheyenne Mobile Zoo out during that anniversary celebration. And at one point, I counted, we had more kids than we had adults in the beer garden. And that just warms my heart because that's, if you go back to the UK, the community pub is where everyone gets together, and it is families, it's dogs, it's everybody.
Let's bring that back, folks. So, let's get rid of this stigma of breweries just being for adults. You can bring families here.
Absolutely.
And everybody can enjoy themselves responsibly. Now, you also have something called the Craft Beer Society.
Yes.
Would you care to tell our viewers about that?
That's our Mug Club membership, in which people join once a year. In February, we open it to new members, and they get a special mug to drink any beer they want. There's $1 off. But then more importantly, to re-emphasize the social aspect of craft beer and that third space and that community development that I wanted to bring to life. We have 3 events throughout the year in which they're exclusive just to Craft Beer Society members, where we just get together, we sample some special beers, and look at some food and beer pairings and that type of thing, and really explore that connection between the community and craft beer.
Okay, speaking of food options, food and beer pairing, what are the food options here? Well,
a lot of people come in expecting us to be a full restaurant, and I like to say, there are breweries out there that or restaurants that happen to brew beer. We are a brewery that happens to have some food. So we actually cater in all of our food. We partner with local area chefs and restaurants and get people who are as passionate about beer as I am, as passionate about food as I am about beer, focus on that because I don't want to run a restaurant. So you can get great paninis, soups, meat and cheese platter, beautiful German pretzels here at Pikes Peak Brewing Company, but you won't find a hamburger, you won't find a steak, French fries, anything like that. What I would offer you is, hey, go up the hill to the restaurant right next door, because not only can you get a great steak there, great hamburger, but our beer's on tap.
I like that synergy there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, focus on your core competency.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, don't try to be everything to everybody.
Sure. Yes, and yeah, you've expanded quite a bit here, but you also are involved in philanthropy. So, and I noticed that you make it kind of easy for nonprofit organizations to partner with Pikes Peak Brewing Company. You even have a link, a section on your website where nonprofit organizations can make requests.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, giving back to the community is something that's always been really important to everyone who works here at Pikes Peak Brewing Company. So we've, along the way, we do every year we'd have a couple of set of nonprofits that we really believe reflect our values, and we have big partnerships with them. Folks like Trout Unlimited, the local chapter of Trout Unlimited, we actually make a beer which we hike to the headwaters of Pikes Peak and grab a gallon of water from a stream that has an endangered species of fish in there. We actually use that in the boil, and then some of the proceeds go back to Trout Unlimited to help preserve that habitat. One of my favorite things we do is with the Colorado Springs Fire Department. We produce the Local 5 ale, and that happens every fall, in which the Local 5 of the Colorado Springs Fire Departments host people from throughout the country as part of the Fallen Firefighter Memorial. And proceeds from that beer actually allow them to visit funerals throughout the year of every fallen firefighter or EMS person throughout the year. So that is a real big connection with us as the fire departments. And then we also do other type of community philanthropy events, such as we do a beer for boobies to further breast cancer awareness, in which the ladies of Pikes Peak Brewing brew that beer. And last year we actually had a mobile mammogram come out to encourage people to get breast exams, and just touches my heart that we actually found cancer in one of the patients.
Really? Okay.
So that's making a direct impact to the community, and that's what we love to do.
It's something tangible,
it is.
a tangible result there.
It gives me goosebumps every time I talk about it.
Sure, it's important work for sure.
Yeah.
So, somebody coming to Pikes Peak Brewing Company for the first time, what can that person expect, and what recommendations would you make for that person stepping through the door the first time?
And that's a great question, and I can best sum that up by, there was a review on, one of the reviews online, and it said, when you come to Pikes Peak, for the first time, you feel kind of a little bit awkward. You step inside the doors, and you feel like, I'm the only person who doesn't know anyone else out here. And that person who left that review said, fight the temptation to leave, give it 5 or 10 minutes, and you'll feel like you're a regular. And because we have in our barrel room, which is our addition that we've added, we have community tables to encourage people to sit next to someone they don't know, excuse me, like they do in Europe, and just ask questions, start talking to people. And I love watching people's body language. There's two people at a big long table, and then someone else comes up, can I sit here? And by the end of the evening, they're engaged in conversations. So come, make new friends, enjoy some award-winning craft beer, and just become part of the community.
Great, and I was going to ask you about the awards that you've won. Would you care to elaborate? It's not bragging if it's true.
No, absolutely. So, we've won. We've done very well at the Colorado State Fair. In fact, our Little London English Mild in 2012 was given the honors of Best in Show, and I think for an English Mild to get a Best in Show in Colorado, which is known for its hoppy beers, is pretty special to me. So then, All Colorado Beer Fest and those type of competitions, we've always done well and placed in those. So a variety, a smattering of different awards from since since we first opened.
Okay, great. Once again, would you like to tell the people the address and where else they can connect with Pikes Peak Brewing
Sure.
Company?
So follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Would be great. Our address here is 1756 Lake Woodmoor Drive, pikespeakbrewing.com. We'd love to have you be part of our family.
And what are your hours?
We're open from 11 in the morning till 9 o'clock during weekdays, and on weekends it's 11 till 11 p.m.
Well, folks, this is Chris Wright with Pikes Peak Brewing Company. I advise you to come check it out. Sit, you'll have a good time, you'll make some new friends, you'll get some good beers for sure. Thank you very much for taking the time with us, Chris.
Yeah, cheers.